I would strongly recommend whatever the knowledge you have, whatever the grade, whatever the educational background you have some limited knowledge of understanding the data, right? Keep on trying until you get achieved, right? But I would talk to my younger self that I wanted to conduct any experiments in a way of understanding or in a way of learning something. I would have been done range of understandings, and I wanted to pick one that would be made me very happy.
Welcome to the Job Dictionary podcast. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Anish Kumar Mateti to learn about what it's like to work as a prompt engineer. Anish, welcome.
Hello, Walking, and so good to be standing here. And yeah, definitely. And it's so fantastic to be in presenting the Job Dictionary, his first podcast. All right, just taking myself. I'm a like decade-year-old data scientist, working on majorly contributing on some of the beautiful machine learning algorithms. Like we talk about the deep learning techniques, and not forgetting the NLP processing languages, the theorems. And then, yeah, looking at the current pace, I was currently working as a generative AI developer within a prompt engineering task. So yeah, currently with that, with an experience, so I'll be welcoming for all the prompt engineers to listen and podcast that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, in your own words, Anish, tell me like if you were talking to a 5-year-old, what is it that you do, right? Like in your own words. Also, let me know where do you live? And then as a kid, what did you want to be when you grow up? Obviously, like if you were a kid and you saw generative AI coming, then you were ahead of all of us. So let me know the answer to those questions.
Actually, that was the right question to the right person, I would say. Let me tell you one like cute little my childhood story, so that way you'll be
Yeah.
understanding how emotionally I was bonded with this particular question. Uh, I used to sleep with my parents, like I used to have a window right to my bedroom. So I always used to watch the sky and then, yeah, think as in a person without gravity. How do I look to the earth and how do I look to the bottom of the sky? So that always fascinated me to ask more questions, like in being in how do I grow when I was being an elder. So that, and I had an opportunity in my school. Okay, can you please tell me what you want to become when you grow older? And that, without any second thought, I had this answer came out of my mouth. I want to be an astronaut. So being an astronaut, all having all those science fiction ideas in my head, I think at this age, I could able to express and I could able to talk to a 5-year-old or like fifth grade, like the kid in how do I do my work, like and what with the daily responsibilities. I'd also wanted to tell this, like any 5-year-old kid, like any fifth grade kid, he just had one idea. He want to go out and play with his friends, come exhausted and want to sleep, and then go and do that repeat in the next day morning, right?
Mhm.
And so I would be saying the same thing as being a data scientist or a prompt engineering. The secret is play with the data, get bored of it, get exhausted, and then do repeat the same thing in the morning. But not to forget, store your observations, like save your observations from your trial and error methods so that you can do come within the new ideas or fresh strategies in the morning. So I would say just play with your data or like play with what you're doing and then get bored of it. Come tomorrow and apply the new strategies. So that's how I think any 5-year-old guy or like would be connected if we talk to in his language of playing games, right? Like I think that would be some ideal position of to handle the position what I was doing as a prompt engineering. Yes.
Gotcha. And where do you live? Where are you based out of, Anish?
Yeah, I'm basically from the upstate, like we call that Albany, New York, but they always keep traveling. Right now, yeah, I'm in Texas.
Gotcha. And how long have you been working in the field of prompt engineering? I know it's a
Yeah.
very new concept kind of to most of us, but how long have you been at it?
Yeah, definitely taking that as a point. I was being telling that I was been in like decade-year role of a data scientist, but looking at the pace of the world, I was working with like 13 months of being in a generative AI engineer, like Gen AI tools and techniques, and as well as within the prompt engineering side of things. So I'd say 13 months. That would be my experience in working hands-on with the real-time data of providing the use cases of Gen AI. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit more about how you stumbled upon it, right? Like what made you get into this career path and how did you first get your start?
Yeah, definitely. So just giving a circle back of what I was talking about my story in the childhood. So when I was growing, when I was in bachelor's, like right, so I really wanted to walk through the front doors of NASA. So I wanted to do research. How do I get inside? So having this all ideas in this 1300 grams of brain, so I started breaking down what I could do better. So that's where I come across like the machine learning. So and watching so many of documents rather than watching some training videos or taking some courses. I personally interested to watch some personal documentaries and then reading some the liable books so that I can understand what are the theoretical answers that I can provide to the world, like to the real-time world. So once after bachelor's done, so I started focusing on learning and like doing much more practice exercises on solving the real-time problems in the Python, like definitely in the Python. So that would be the core
Yeah.
programming language that would be helping. Yeah. So while started from the bachelor's, right from my bachelor's, I started doing AI within the machine learning applications, and that's where I get here, right?
Gotcha. And do you think there are any job any other you talked about a little bit about it, and we'll ask you about resources and books later
Yeah.
down in the podcast,
Uh,
but are there certain degrees or certifications that you think are truly required to get this job?
uh, I heard the word truly, but personally to me, I was mean I had like educational background of two masters, one with the data sciences and what with an AI in engineering. But yeah, personally, if you wanted to get certified, I think that certification has to provided by yourself itself. Yeah, on the paper, we need the certifications to at least pitch deck ourselves to the world outside of the world, at least to take the first gate entry. But yeah, we definitely need some certifications in order to understanding the theoretical manner how the traditional way of learning. And then yeah, for now and the coming growth of age, I think that might be literally eventually dropping off, might be having the masters or might be having the certifications. But yeah, definitely
Gotcha.
we need some certifications.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, this field is evolving a lot, and there's a lot of ways
Yes.
that you can call it, and there's a lot of different jobs popping up. So, are there any other job titles that this position also goes by, or is it mainly just, broadly prompt engineer?
That's a good question to answer. Actually, yeah, there are other titles that can definitely justify doing what I was doing personally, but there isn't so much hype on the prompt engineering title.
Yeah.
So let me say this: being a Gen AI engineer, like generative AI engineer, is completely different being a prompt engineer. So if I wanted to allow, like, give an like in a brief like way of explaining, so Gen AI is what you apply and some of the strategies to not to get some retrieved informations from that. And the prompt engineering is entirely different. That how do you talk to the machine or how do you talk to the AI chatbot, right? There is a thin line between how do you talk to human and how do you talk to a machine, right? So like in a performing language, like how you're talking to the machine has to be, I think a person need to evolve much more in another dimension. How do you talk to the machine rather than you talk in a daily language? But the challenging part and the problem solving is here is interact with the machine in just like in a human, right?
Mm,
So there's other titles that we definitely say that responsible AI engineer. There is other coming in the future. I will be definitely betting on that. There is a conversational AI engineer. There was a responsible AI engineer. There are more kind of another job titles that might hit in the market in coming few years. But yeah, coming to the question, there are a few more other titles in the name of the prompt engineer, as you call that, like yeah, within the generative AI engineering stuff. Yeah, that would definitely take in a considerable.
gotcha. Yeah, because I mean, I think when I think prompt engineer, I'm thinking somebody who's really good at asking ChatGPT prompts, right? Um, and so thank you for kind of highlighting that distinction a little bit. Do you think that there's a specific concentration of, prompt engineering jobs that will have like the higher amount of demand, or maybe just like which ones are more common? And educate me if I have no idea in terms of, obviously my conception of it is maybe like, somebody who's really good at typing up a prompt and putting it into ChatGPT versus like what is the actual demand, or like what are people actually getting hired for?
Yeah, I think that would be definitely need to be discussed. I would say definitely. Yeah, I'll give some brief the concept of how do the prompt engineer behaves. Let's say there are two fields. Okay, so there is a dense prompting and there is a concise prompting. If you understand me correctly, So concise prompting is you shoot out the sentence, or like you shoot out your the own way of asking question to the machine in a very simple words, like not making the complications. Just ask, okay, can I have the facts out of this the document on which day some amendment was being released in the US. So that's a pretty straight question, right? So you ask some question in a language, to get the some retrieve information from a given document or like chunk of a data. But there is another side of the coin that is called dense prompting. So what does dense prompting do? So we can give the instructions in a step, like in a breakdown manner. Like let's say step one, do not miss the entities from a given chunk of a data. Step two, perform and understand that you are an AI assistant and read all the text that is being fed into you, or like uploaded into you. And step three, do not forget the facts. Like, I mean, if I say dates or like numbers or like any the dollar amount, like let's say 1 billion, or like any statistical the performances, right? Like we can, yeah. So we can talk to the chatbot, like we can prompt in a such a way you can break down the steps, step one, step two, step three, step four. And at the end, you can say that, please recall all the steps from the above and give me the conclusion of the answer. So that's way you derive more of the information from a given feed of a data, right? That doesn't make sense. So there is like concise prompting is you directly ask the questions, not to make confused to the bot machine. And there is a dense prompting that you can break down the steps and then you can make rethink the machine. Can you please rethink of all the steps, and now you provide me the new answer, which is a conclusion. That I personally had this experience of retrieving the more higher accuracy by the doing from the dense prompting rather to the concise prompting. I would say that
Yeah.
people, yeah, if we work on it, like definitely the better results on our way. Yeah.
Gotcha. And Anish, tell me a little bit about what a day in the life is like for you as a prompt engineer, right? Like what time do you start? What time do you go to work? What percentage of the time are you in meetings versus just, engaging with some sort of software? And is it pretty flexible in terms of like remote and hybrid, or do you have to be in an office?
Yeah, so to my personal, all the way that I was started, yeah, definitely I was being flexible always. I'm glad that I've been flexible and I've been hired to one of the organization that provided me some elaborate, like I mean, like hybrid facilities. Like, yeah, if I wanted to say that I pretty good start my day. Like I'm in a night person. Like I used to enjoy work and stay late night. But yeah, let's close to 7:30 a.m. whatever the time zone I live in, so that I can come like catch up the 9 a.m. login time. So I'd be saying the wake up time would be 7:30. Like read some emails and like do some brush up on the
Hmm.
next upcoming meetings. But yeah, personally, I think there is also there is a the work culture that is slowly adapting to the most of the organizations, making the 4-day work rule and then cutting down all the stand-up meetings in the morning, because that will take a lot of time not to be in the discussions that you're not actually making any results out of it, right? So in the PwC, we started avoiding the stand-up calls and making only one-on-one call with the direct team member. As I was a lead with the six data scientist people, so I come up with one like opportunity to conveying that, why don't we only talk to the one-on-one, like rather excluding, or like the like minusing all the day-to-day meetings. So I rather spend lesser time in the meetings and then try to interact within my own team person or like my own co-fellow of worker and the colleague. Yeah, so pretty good start time, I would say. Yeah, 7:30 in the morning, finish reading your emails, catch up in the morning, and then like in the afternoon before lunch, this is my personal way of uh, the day-to-day work. But before the meeting, before the lunch, I would like catch up to one on my personal co-worker, and then I'll see what could be done better by the end of the day. And then yeah, by I always love to carry my work after the work, and this is even I work hybrid. I work remote, I work from beaches, mountains. Yeah, but wherever the closing hour of the day, I definitely interested to take some work back to me and that I can rethink what I could do better as like in a scientist perspective. Because think like a scientist, it's not the title that you given, it's an actual work that you have to do. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what time do you typically end?
Yeah, I like to end like close to 4 p.m. Yeah, like close to 4 p.m. Yeah, let's say 9 to 4, like working 7 hours, having a lot of breaks in it.
Gotcha. And what is your home office, Anish? Do you have a home office for PwC?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do have a home office. I usually carry my the extended desktop, and then I also do work at the back in the home. Yeah.
Gotcha. And where is that home office?
Like we have in the Tampa, Florida, one in that was a home office, like the headquarters. But depending on the prompt engineering and Gen AI team, it was moved to Cleveland, Ohio. So
Gotcha.
that, yeah, the back office. But as I was working like on and off, like traveling for the conferences, meeting the clients, and then come back and then sit
Gotcha.
and do. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you kind of mentioned a little bit, Anish, but tell me like what specific tasks do you think you spend majority of your day doing, right? Like what do you actually engage with most of the time?
Yeah, definitely. So in the past, I was being considered of putting lots of effort in observing and like having the results in the machine learning, like confusion matrix or like performing some validation techniques. But like being the generative AI engineer since last 13 months, I think I will be having more of my contributions in applying some prompt engineering techniques. How do I make the machine understand? How do I prompt more in a dense way that can retrieve more information? And currently, I was working on the tax documents within the
Mm,
PwC. So where the tax documents are like different from one country to other country. So right. So we might be having the structured way of one document and another unstructured way of another document. So I would like to carry to both the determinations, like what could be done better, to move forward structure format to more raw material and unstructured to structure. So I was spending time more of in understanding what could be done better if I ask a question in encounter way to the chatbot and apply some the Gen AI use cases. So I closely work with an OpenAI and Llama to where I have full access, to perform all the endpoints and API keys. Yeah, yeah. I think most of the time I'll be like handling the way of the prompt engineering so that I can make my understanding better to the machine and I get the retrieved informations on the tax documents while coding. Not to forget while coding with the or peer coding in the Azure Databricks. Yeah, that's where we have started saving all the repositories.
gotcha. And what actual technologies do you use, as part of your job? Or like what software do you engage mostly with?
Yeah, so starting with Azure Databricks, so that's where we store all our like repositories, having all our data consoles, like all our files everywhere. And so we wanted to switch to one programming language to other instantly. So if you wanted to do on the Python, I'll do starting applying some logic, and then if you want to do some SQL, put some queries in it. Yeah, so programming wise, I use the Azure Databricks and creating some data pipelines. And the
Mm,
technology and tools wise, I say understanding all the theoretical language of the machine learning and the NLP techniques. So that were the two core areas and the two pillars that where I was standing in. And then now, as I was like trying to brush up what all the nice way of generative AI use cases and the coloring of the prompt engineering. So definitely that would be the areas. Yeah.
gotcha. And you tell me what parts of the job are most exciting and interesting to you, right? And also maybe mention to me like what parts of the jobs are harder, right? More emotionally challenging or just boring.
Yeah, yeah. Every job has its own challenging part or like the emotional way of connecting to your own passion job. Uh, but yeah, if I want to tell the exciting part, so as being a data scientist or being in a generative engineering, so if you have a chance or like if you have an opportunity to predict something, I think that will never be a boring part. Like if you had an opportunity of baselining something and like wanted to see something that coming in the future, I think that would be the most exciting part. But the boring part is you get lots of errors. Like you see you flirt with all the failures.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
you couldn't meet the threshold that what you're exactly trying to meet. That would be the more challenging part. But yeah, obviously I don't see any boring part. But yeah, depending on the job what I was doing, there is always a chance to predict something from the historical data, right?
Mm.
So the exciting part was to predict something. The boring part was, or like the low confidence part was, you feel so many observations within the failures. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that makes total sense. I mean, obviously this field is moving very fast as well too. So you are part of the change. And I mean, honestly, like
Yes.
that's really cool that you have that mentality too. Whether you're like, I mean,
Yeah.
like you love it so much. Are you able to leave all your work at the office or do you take some home? Like maybe do you have to work some overtime some days and work into the evening?
Yeah, I definitely like to take some work back to home so that I can revisit the work what I've done. Like could come some of more interesting way of deep diving. So I definitely like to take back some home.
Gotcha. Yeah. And typically for prompt engineers that you know and that you met that you network with, are you able to work flexible hours and typically like this kind of format like you do, like remote and hybrid, or is it more common to work in office for the set amount of hours?
Yeah, I would say the both ways. But yeah, being sitting on your own chair, like I mean, like you try to rotate for some time and then you hands on your on your device, the laptop. So I feel flexible, and I was super blessed, to be having this kind of a work culture with my
Yeah,
office clients. So yeah, definitely flexible to be working on the office, on my own chair or at back home. Yeah.
gotcha. And are there any busy seasons to this job? Like which parts of the year are busiest, or is there not really that kind of a theme?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, definitely. I would be saying starting from the January to April, because I'll tell you the reason. I was working within a tax AI department
Mm,
within the PwC consulting firm.
yeah,
What do we do? Like we try to claim all the tax like refunds in the start of from January to the April 15th. I think that's the time now. So we usually get more of the documents that we try to capture the actual retrieved information. This period would be pretty busy, I would be saying, in the calendar year.
yeah, and that makes sense. So it kind of depends on the case and the actual client, right? In a way.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And obviously for PwC, like that makes a ton of
Yeah.
sense. And just tell me, what is something that people underestimate about this profession?
Yeah. So saying that, circling back to my previous discussion,
Hmm.
people always like they have the pretty good way of expressing something if they wanted to talk to a person, but the world have never seen such thing that you wanted to talk to a machine and let that answer you, make you convincible, right? So people always like try to get some desired output from the human as a human. But the overall, like I was talking about, the underestimate is like you have to talk to the very precisely, not in the binary language zeros or ones to the machine, but you have to be very precise, because the language is systematic language. It could understand it, or it could take in a different way. So being a responsible, the engineer, whatever the work area you're working as a prompt engineer, I would say, be very specific when you talk to them in a chatbot rather than that a human, because this is all the new area of the grass that we are walking in the current stage of life. Yeah.
Gotcha. And is there something that people overestimate about this profession? Maybe like an overhyped positive assumption about how cool this job is, or maybe overhyped negative assumptions about ways that this
Yeah.
job, it may not be as hard as it may seem.
Yeah, definitely. There are few distractions or like few theories that are like revolving around this prompt engineering. Let's say we'll
Right.
start with the paycheck. They might think that okay, the prompt engineering might be having the higher annual income than regular machine learning, right? But looking at the world, the same amount of the machine learning engineer is paid within the prompt engineering is paid. But yeah, definitely a couple of grants higher. But there is like much hype that okay, maybe getting like around 300K, like more than that, like in an annum of being in a Gen AI engineer or the prompt engineering. That would be start that, because I felt that I would have been heard so many from one of my friends and like from the colleagues, like being in a job like prompt engineer, how much pay that you get. That's the very first question I heard like so many times. But yeah, making that into reality check is as same as a data scientist being paid, but within a like good responsible way of a couple of extra grand. And the overestimation, I would say again, in a positive way, uh, people will think that okay, if you are in a prompt engineering, you would have been already took the ladder steps of machine learning, NLP, deep learning, or some data exploratory analyst. Yeah, so if you wanted to be in a prompt engineering, they think that they might already have done the bulks of tax in your history of your career. But it's easy to be a prompt engineering rather than you think of like climbing one by one. But I will tell you the secret. There is a way of learning procedure how to be in a prompt engineering. Yep.
Gotcha. And, Anish, let's say, I think this is one of the best questions that we get to ask as well is what is the fastest way to get into this profession? Especially if I'm somebody who is coming from a non-traditional background and I just need to get my foot in the door.
Yeah, I think yeah that would be interesting part, because these days everything is in shortcuts, because we have the world with an advanced technologies. We have the everything in the front door, like in the tip of fingers, that you can ask something and then you can get something. Yeah, the fastest way I would say, rather than checking with some certifications or doing some master degrees, I would strongly recommend whatever the knowledge you have, whatever the grade, whatever the educational background you have some limited knowledge of understanding the data, right? So try
Hmm.
to understand the data in a real-time world. Like think that there are some dependent variables and there are independent variables. And how do you correlate in between them? Give it some rows and columns in a CSV file or Excel file. If you put something in the columns and rows, you'll easily try to map that, okay, this particular row is talking about this particular column. So try to always analyze the real-time data, whatever the financial, whatever the domains you work in. If you are in a, let's say, if you are in a engineer at some financial sector, or like some
Hmm.
banking sector, or like telecommunication domain, you always have an idea of thinking of the data in the perspective of rows and columns. So the fastest way to get is try to what improvise your own knowledge and visualize in the manner of rows and columns, so that you will try to easily catch the beauty of the data analysis part. I would personally recommend that. But the fastest way of to get entering into this is having a common degree in the data analytics. That would be the, like, I mean, the core foundation, because you cannot, there is no escape velocity, I would say. If you don't understand how data behaves, there is no, you'll be end up in a like false matrix, like, I mean. But yeah, the easiest way to understand and get into this job is try to get some degree, or like try to talk to the people who are actually working on it, so that you will understand how data is really performing and producing the insights, and understand that in a way of rows and columns in the CSV, so that you will easily correlate between what is the independent and what is a dependent, and what could be the result if you change something. So if you have an idea, talk to the more people who are working on that, rather than having lots of backs in the degrees. Yeah.
Gotcha. And that is a really good point too. I mean, what other fields are people coming from before getting into this profession, right? Is it random or are there themes to it?
Oh, I would say definitely random, because I had this personal experience. I went to one of the conference, like one of the summits of entrepreneurs conference in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
I was talking to the multiple peoples in the way of networking. So there are other superior, like higher managers who is having like 25 years of an experience. They abruptly wanted to join the prompt engineering, or like, because they know what the value that is going to be adding into their own industry, right? If you are in a front-end developer, they are still wanted to come and be in a prompt engineering for a good cause, like not for having the overhype that I was talking in the beginning. Yeah, so many random uh, experienced persons having, whether you have some data experience or like data handling experience, or like you might be in some testing experience. There are
Mm,
like random people who wanted to join in this particular prompt engineering and make the life easier in between their organizations.
gotcha. And how long does it usually take for someone to get really good at this job, Anish?
Uh, yeah, definitely. If I say we need certainly good time, a certain period, to get this job, I would say 2 years at least, because not forgetting, if you look back into what happened from the March 2023 to March 2024, every single day had a new invention in the fields of AI, right?
Hmm.
So if you wanted to get into the race, or like if you want to chase down what is already happened behind, you need to be waiting for 2 years, I would strongly say, because you never know what would be releasing updated versions of the
Right,
ChatGPT, right? So stick to the technology for at least 2 years, so that you'll understand what could be happening in the upcoming the year, right? It's unpredictable. Now I would say I have no answer, like to be how good you look when you
right.
join this prompt engineering. Ideally 2 years.
Gotcha. It's kind of about the reps, right? Like how much
Yeah,
experience do you
yeah.
actually get? And what is the
Mhm.
typical promotion path like from entry to the highest position you can hold currently, and how much time is spent at each level?
Yeah, let's keep a scale for it. Like, okay, if you join as a beginner, okay, that's where you, as you call as an intern, and then you try to move within a certain amount of experience as called as a junior level developer, or like some associate, right?
Yeah.
And then you will be naming the senior engineer, or like senior developer engineer, SD 2. And then if you move a little bit higher, always you take a downline path of like 5 to 10 years, you will be calling as a lead engineer, right? And then what could be more higher, like you will be calling some, like the manager within the team of like 20 people, but you can't. And there is the final another one going to be CFO, like CEO, right? So
Mm,
I'd say the promotional path always lies in between 1 to 10 years, in between starting from your intern to be in an like lead. I would say staying in at the lead and then looking for the new, the world scenarios would be ideally the good idea, not again climbing to the manager. There are multiple different factors that could influence you after you had 10 years of experience in a given industry, right?
gotcha. Yeah. And what is the average salary for someone at your level, Anish? And you can provide a range as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say 150 to like 150 grand to 200 grand would be an ideal range of being in a prompt engineering. You can definitely have a target on it and then try to achieve that. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And we kind of talked about what fields people are coming from, and you kind of said obviously like there's some obviously like some engineers, but broadly like it's still a little bit random. What would you
Yeah,
say
that,
people what would you say people move on to, right? Like what are fields that people go on to next? Are there any themes, or can people just kind of go into everything after prompt engineering?
yeah, there are a few couple of things that could possibly happen after prompt engineering. Let's say a person from a like not having a background of being in a like data handling person, and then still coming and being in a good the valid engineer and asking the good questions to the prompt engineering. And then there is other possible themes, not forgetting, I said in the beginning, responsible AI engineer and the conversational AI engineer. What they do,
Mm,
let me give this example. Like we understand within the knowledge, the gen AI is used generating some auto-generated text from the given already historical text, right? So it is generating the new text, which is very similar to the old text. And when you try to feed the auto-generated text again to the model, what happens at the sometime? It will be talking nonsense at the end. Like you're still feeding all the auto-generated text as an input, it will be remodeling itself and it might be end up providing some irrelevant answers. So that's where the responsible AI engineering team could coming in the future, saying that how, like how wanted to understand how delusion and how illusion works when you're writing a prompt to a machine. So I would say there are more things themes coming in the future. One would be definitely responsible AI engineering, as
Yeah.
a generative AI engineer. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's really good insights, Nish. Thank you. Um, And you kind of mentioned it a little bit before too, and I think this is a really, important question as well, is what books, resources, programs, or certifications do you think or would recommend to somebody who wants to get into this profession? Maybe like a student, or maybe, somebody who's already in industry and they're like, I'm really interested in prompt engineering. Are there any ones that you would definitely recommend? And then are there some that you maybe might not recommend that are more popular?
Yeah, more popular, I would say there are so many journals and so many research papers that are coming in every day. I would say not particularly sticking to one paper, but I would say in a graduate level of understanding and a student, I would always suggest them to go and research what are the new recent published papers on a prompt engineering.
Mm,
Because I have a feeling that, okay, whatever we currently living in the world is the most advanced, and whatever we lived in 5 years back is a primitive way of living, like in the way of like in AI versions, right? So let's say in the 5 years back, if you wanted to do some certifications, you have all the abundant facilities or resources, open resources, YouTube, you call it, like some paid versions of website, or like the master degrees. But like I feel this particular, the current age is completely different from the last 5 years. So try to concentrate of more on the research papers that is published most recently on the prompt engineering, rather reading so many pages on the books of published books. But yeah, I had a obeli, I have read that, and I have business delusion. That was the book I have been read recently. If I wanted to like name it again, business delusion. So yeah, that will be providing of a more conceptual values. How do you come over the prompt engineering? So, but yeah, there are lots of book. Personally, I don't have habit of reading so many books. Like yeah, understanding the real time scenarios. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. And Anish, moving on to our last question, I think this is also a really good one and a cool one, and I want to give you the opportunity to answer in however way you want. What would you tell your younger self when you were at the beginning of your career?
All right. Talking to my younger version, I definitely could have been predicted where I'm standing right now. Uh, I would have been corrected myself rather attempting so many trials. I would have been stick to one belief of thought, and then I've been made some arrangements, be in an area. Okay, if you completed 1,000 experiments, I would definitely wanted to stick within any one of that, because people usually suggest that, okay, keep on trying until you get achieved, right? But I would talk to my younger self that if I wanted to conduct any experiments in a way of understanding or in a way of learning something, I would have been done certain range of understandings, and I wanted to pick one that would be made me very happy, so that I could always come up within the new kind of experiment. I could have been revisit the old experiment and then try the new things. So yeah, talking to my older version, like younger version, I would be saying conduct a limited experience experiments and pick one which made you happy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome advice, Anish. Thank you. And Anish, where can people reach out to you to follow along with your work or maybe, connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. I really want to tell it this end. So I do have my own the website. As I was talking something about astronomy in the beginning, I have the page called Anish Quantum Intelligence. So
Okay.
that's where I write my articles and I publish my like journals, and then I keep posting what I was doing in the current area, in the current way of job. So people can reach out me on LinkedIn. Anish Kumar Mateti is a user ID, and people can me email at anish.qai116 at the gmail.com. That would be my personal email, that where I'll be desperately talking on the AI field of giving having good conversations. Yeah, I have my own website, Anish Quantum Intelligence, and I have people can always reach out to me on the LinkedIn. Yeah, even if we can exchange some good phone numbers, we can definitely talk and go for the further explorations, expeditions. Yep.
Awesome. Anish, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on to the first rendition of the Job Dictionary. I'm sure like this is going to be a very coveted, episode as well because of, prompt engineering and it's rising so much and it's becoming kind of like a hot button issue.
Yes. All
Yes.
right,
So
that's a cool conversation. I think, yeah, I enjoy really talking in a good, making all my senses to put together and then talk something on the prompt engineering is a gut feeling that I always say suggest to the people out in the market. Yeah, take a step, do not forget, and be confident on the how do you talk to the machine instead of the human.
thank you. Thank you, Anish.
You just got one episode closer to learning about the world of jobs out there. To explore the rest of our career categories and find your best fit, go to jobdictionary.com to sign up for the beta users waitlist. Then subscribe here to find the next episodes coming out this week. And as always, drop us a comment, review, or message to let us know how we can better attune our episodes to your specific needs. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Threads, Pinterest, and wherever else you're on socials to go get our short, snappy preview reels that expose you to new job options every day. Because here at Job Dictionary, we believe your big aha moment can be just one scroll away. Go check it out and get out there. Cheers!